My cheating wife's affair with my best friend. A true tale. It was one of those warm summer evenings that made you want to just lay back, relax, and enjoy life. The sun was setting over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. I sat on the porch swing, a cold beer in my hand, watching my wife and my best friend playing with my son in the yard. The scene was idyllic, the kind that makes you thankful for family and friends. But little did I know that this picture-perfect moment was about to shatter, revealing a dark secret that would change my life forever. My wife, Sarah, was the most beautiful woman I knew. When I first laid eyes on her in college, I knew she was the one. We dated for 3 years, and it was the best 3 years of my life. Then we got married, and soon after we had our son, Thomas. Life was great. I mean, sure, there were arguments and disagreements like any married couple, but nothing serious. And I always thought that we had a pretty good marriage. I mean, I still do. I guess my best friend, Mark, was more like a brother to me than a friend. We grew up together in the same town. We shared everything, our dreams, our fears, our girlfriends. He was the best man at my wedding, and he was the godfather to my son. I trusted him implicitly. So when he and my wife started spending so much time together, I didn't think anything of it. In fact, I encouraged it. Mark was single, and I thought that maybe it was time for him to settle down. Besides, I trusted both of them completely, so when they suggested that we all go out together for dinner, I readily agreed. Little did I know that this would be the start of a nightmare that I would unwake up from for a very long time. The first red flag that I noticed was that my wife stopped spending as much time with me as she used to. She would go out with the girls every weekend, and when she came back, she was always in a good mood and full of energy. I thought that maybe she just needed some time to have fun with her friends, so I didn't think much of it. Then I started noticing that she and Mark were always together. They would go to the movies, to dinner, to concerts. They even took a trip to Vegas together while I was out of town on a business trip. I asked my wife about it, and she said that Mark had insisted on coming along because he was worried about me being alone in a hotel room. I found it odd, but I didn't think much of it. One night I couldn't sleep, so I got up and went to the living room to watch TV. That's when I saw it. A missed call from Mark on my wife's phone. It was 3 a.m., and the call lasted for almost an hour. My heart skipped a beat. Was there something going on between them? I tried to convince myself that there wasn't, that I was just being paranoid. But the seed of doubt had been planted. I started paying closer attention to my wife's behavior. And it didn't take me long to notice that she was acting strangely. She was secretive, evasive, and sometimes I could have sworn I saw a tear in her eye when she thought I was unlooking. I tried to talk to her, to tell her that I was worried about her, but she would just brush it off and say that I was overreacting. One day I decided to confront Mark. I called him, trying to keep my voice casual. I asked him what his relationship with my wife was. To my surprise, it was honest. He told me that he had feelings for my wife, but that nothing had happened between them. I felt relieved, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in our house was palpable. My wife and I barely spoke unless we had to. The thought of her betraying me kept me awake at night. I tried to focus on work, but I couldn't seem to concentrate. I was a mess. Then, one evening, everything changed. I came home early from work and found my wife and Mark in a compromising position. They were kissing passionately on the couch in the living room. The sight was so shocking that I couldn't move, couldn't speak. All I could do was stare at them in disbelief. When they saw me, they froze. My wife's face drained of color, and Mark quickly got up from the couch, trying to explain, but I didn't want to hear any explanations. I was in too much pain, too betrayed to listen. I stormed out of the house, not knowing where I was going. As I drove aimlessly through the streets, anger and betrayal boiled inside me. I thought about confronting Mark, maybe even beating him up. But then I thought about my son. What kind of example would I be setting for him if I let my anger get the better of me? I was a grown man. I had to behave like one. I ended up at a bar, sitting in a dark corner nursing a drink. I didn't want anyone to see me there, to know that I was hurting. I was ashamed, humiliated, angry. I felt like my whole world had fallen apart. Then my phone rang. It was my mother. She had sensed something was wrong, and she was calling to see how I was doing. I tried to keep my voice steady, to hide the pain I was feeling, but I think she could hear it in my voice. She drove over to my house, brought me food, and stayed with me for hours, just talking, listening. She didn't tell me what to do, but her presence was a comfort, a reminder that I wasn't alone. As the days passed, I started to piece my life back together. I threw myself into my work, into my hobbies, into my son. I didn't want to sit around wallowing in self-pity, but the pain of betrayal was still there, a constant ache in my chest. I knew I had to do something about it. So I started seeing a therapist. Talking about my feelings, my pain, my anger was a relief, but it was also incredibly painful. It was like reopening old wounds that had finally started to heal. But I knew I had to do it. I had to confront the pain, the anger, the betrayal head-on, if I was ever going to move forward. My wife, Sarah, begged for forgiveness. She promised to do whatever it took to win back my trust, but I wasn't so sure that was possible. Mark, on the other hand, was apologetic at first, but then he became defensive. He claimed that I had ruined his relationship with Sarah, and that he had only acted out of desperation. None of it made sense to me. Why would Mark jeopardize his friendship with me? A friendship that had lasted 4 years over my wife. In the end, I decided to give Sarah another chance. She had shown remorse, and she had promised to change. But I also knew that I could never forgive Mark. He had betrayed my trust in the worst way possible. And now, whenever I look at my son, I couldn't help but wonder if he'll turn out like his father or more like his uncle. Because in the end, that's what it all boils down to. It wasn't just my wife who had betrayed me. It was my best friend. The two people I had trusted the most had stabbed me in the back. And that, I believe, is the worst kind of betrayal of all. If you liked this true tale, stay tuned for more updates and don't forget to subscribe for more gripping stories. Thank you for watching.